Welcome back. So Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula has resigned as the National Assembly Speaker as well as a Member of Parliament. Her resignation yesterday came a day after the High Court in Pretoria dismissed her urgent bid to halt imminent arrest with costs. She is accused of receiving over 2 million rand in bribes from contractors in exchange for tenders. During her time as Defence Minister, Mapisa-Nqakula says her departure is no way an admission of guilt. Meanwhile, the ANC has welcomed her resignation, saying it values her commitment to maintain the image and the reputation of the organization. Let's now bring into this conversation Ongama Mtimka, who is a political analyst with the Nelson Mandela University, joining us in studio. And also do stay tuned as we are live to our reporter Junior Kumalo, who is at the police station in Centurion, Littleton Police Station. Those are live visuals. That is where we expect the speaker to hand herself over, the former speaker that is, and then it will be the processing, and later on she'll be then taken to court, where the NPA has indicated that it will not be opposing bail. Ongama Mtimka now joining us in studio. Good morning. Thank you so much for making time for us.
Good morning, Elton. Thank you.
I said to you at the beginning, I want to shock you a bit with how I'm going to start this conversation, and please bear with me. Please bear with me on this one.
At least they gave me some water.
I want to take you back to the secret ballot matter. Before the Constitutional Court, the UDM versus the Speaker. In the unanimous judgment, which was penned by Mogoeng, this is what he says. Public office in any of the three arms comes with a lot of power. That power comes with responsibilities whose magnitude ordinarily determines the allocation of resources for performance of public functions. The powers and the resources assigned to each of these arms do not belong to the public office bearers who occupy positions of high authority therein. They are therefore not to be used for the advancement of personal and sectarian interest. That is what Mogoeng said in that unanimous judgment. And here you have a case of now a former speaker being accused of corruption. And while the focus is on the speaker's position right now, we tend to forget that the allegations of what has happened actually happened during a tenure as defense minister, which means that even then she bared a responsibility around how to use public money. What's your take on this?
Absolutely. This is quite an interesting one. I think that, so if the allegations are true, they would be forming part of a modus operandi that politicians have established in public office, of leveraging public office for personal gain. Now, it's interesting. She's had a very long career in government, starting early 2000s as a deputy minister and then a minister from 2004. Somebody maintains a clean slate in terms of what's out there up until what may have been the final lap, or penultimate actually, in 2016, and gets embroiled in something like this, allegedly. Now, as I say, it's unfortunately something that has become rampant in South Africa, where public office is leveraged for personal gain. It happens in municipalities hugely, and it happens in national government. So it's unfortunate in that sense. It's interesting, though, you know, because so these allegations only surfaced some time ago, and get her at a time when I feel that she's actually had a redemptive path. I like how you cite this, because this was in relation to Parliament.
Yes.
I think that she brought in some consciousness to legality in Parliament that actually was a reflection of how the ANC in Parliament, or her as a speaker, was showing how she has learned over time how to conduct the office of the speaker with integrity and with sensitivity to the law, you know, and procedures. So that is quite interesting that right on her final lap in a 2-year stint where she's been able to do that, these catch up with
I wonder, though, if the ATM would agree with you. Well, the IFP does. Niran Singh yesterday did say that she has brought about this level of decorum that is required within Parliament. However, though, the ATM on the other end, and of course this is in relation to decisions relating to motion of no confidence and also whether to use a secret ballot or not, because again goes back to this decision by the Constitutional Court that the Speaker actually does carry such powers. But then the problem around that is also how that power is being exercised and whether you put party political interest first, because that was also at play right now with this particular resignation.
Absolutely. So that's quite interesting. So with the resignation itself, that it breaks an impasse, the decision to resign, because had it not happened, the ANC had the capability to protect her up until she exits. Something which they would not want to do during an election, period. So that she was able to do it and avoid the triggering, because anyway, the step aside rule was going to be triggered as soon as she was charged. So it was it's an interesting one that these things happened so fast in these last 2 weeks that she's been able to offer to the party a resignation that helps her avoid this a protracted mutually damaging battle between the ANC and opposition parties, but also in the image of Parliament. And I think that if she had decided to see how she could fight while she remains in office, she would have tarnished completely, her reputation. So you make the point that, our views differ between some of us who actually commend what she's been able to do. Now, all of us would shift from that part commendation to a strong condemnation had she decided to remain and not actually resign.
The ANC issued a statement last night as well, saying that we value her commitment to maintaining the image of our organization as it reflects our principles of organizational renewal that promote proactive responsibility taking amongst members rather than waiting for an instruction to step aside, which speaks to the point that you raised now. But here's the thing about this resignation. Is it a win for the ANC to say that it speaks to this part around renewal? And here we have a very, very senior member of the party who has decided to resign. Of course, if when the charges were to be instated against her, that would have triggered the step-aside resolution. Or do the electorate look at it and say that, it's just another confirmation that indeed within the ANC there are very senior people who have been using state power to enrich themselves, allegedly?
I think both of those are possible. Here's what I think is a big issue. When the ANC decided to use this idea of whether a person has been charged, a person who may have brought the organization in disrepute based on the conduct or the issues that are defined in its constitution, and brought in the activities of the state, that is whether or not they were charged. What they did was to introduce a pitying of government processes in party political issues. So her initial response was a response that was sensitive to, if you charge me, now you're going to trigger the ANC step-aside rule. And in fact, now it now potentially in the eyes of ANC politicians who are affected by this, it raises the whether or not, when actions against them get taken, whether or not it's an exercise in weaponizing the NPA. And I think that they still have room to correct that, because it was a capital mistake. The ANC constitution and rules are clear as to who brings the party into disrepute, and it has nothing to do whether you are formally charged. In fact, it's one of many of the guiding criteria of what it means to bring the party into disrepute. They are busy, Aldrin, now preparing to take people who've brought the party into disrepute, which in the next term are going to have their cases progress from cases that may be seen unviable when they assume office to being cases that are viable when they assume office. And when the NPA charges those people, this question of whether it's being weaponized is going to be raised when the ANC can do the right thing. And I think that the Integrity Commission may be emboldened by the events that have happened now. Because I heard that also there may have been some discussions with some of the members in the Integrity Commission. It's going to embolden them to say, drop this thing of charges and stick to the constitution that says, brought the party into disrepute, and the ANC must trust some of the actors within the party, such as the Integrity Commission, to be able to look at allegations that a member faces, the responses of the member, and determine whether they are serious. If they are serious, they should make the call whether or not a person has been charged. The president, the deputy president, all of them are facing charges which have brought the party into disrepute, which are serious by themselves politically. But whether or not they get charged in the next year or two is a different issue. But those have brought the party into disrepute.
Yeah, so the point that Junior raises there is that the first bribe, even according to the papers that were filed by the NPA, dates as far back as December 2016, allegedly, again. But if this dates back to 2016, considering that this is a defense department that we're speaking about, a very, very important department that also has intelligence capabilities, are we saying that none of the previous, like former President Jacob Zuma didn't know about this, President Cyril Ramaphosa didn't know about this, up until it surfaced during the complaint that was brought by the UDM in Parliament? And by the way, Bantu Olumisa will be joining us a bit later on.
You see, that's very interesting. I don't think that they didn't know, right? Because the military police were already investigating the matter after it surfaced that the relationship, primarily, by the way, because the main contracts were the contracts between Ndlovu and the Defense Department, where those had attracted the attention of the military police because of the ways in which they were, done, allegedly falsified documents. But I think that I would give it a benefit of doubt in terms of when action was taken, because even the NPA themselves arrested Ndlovu only in October 2020. Yeah. By the way, this is something which makes you understand why the Speaker attempted to creatively impose on the NPA as to how the NPA should proceed with charging her. Because now ANC politicians are aware that it's possible to aim at the king and shoot to miss, and still nothing happens to you. If the case of Ace Magashule, Zandile Gumede, and others is anything to go by. And then the primary person, Ndlovu here, Ndlovu, who was arrested, and I think only a few weeks ago, if I'm not mistaken, or early this month, that the case was struck off the roll, the main case that she faces on an unrelated matter. Yep. Now, if you would understand why there would be anxieties about when a person gets arrested, how ready the NPA is in order to bring a matter to finality. And unfortunately, the ANC's legalization of what otherwise was an integrity and ethics issue has elevated the importance that politicians place on the conduct of the NPA, when in fact, because now it is a factor on, so a charge may be laid, it may be instituted against a person, and there would be direct, immediate political consequences. Okay. Whereas the judicial processes are not going to be immediate. You know what I mean? So it's an interesting, I think they knew, to go back to your question, they would have known, definitely, but the ANC, the culture of small Anyana skeletons, has remained entrenched.